Hello and welcome to the Money Show via the Everything Is Black and White podcast. It's Andrew Musgrove here. I'm here with Aaron Stokes and we're here to discuss all things Newcastle United. The Magpies somehow remain unbeaten in this Premier League season thanks to another smash and grab this time against Wolves as they ran out 2-1 winners at the Molineux. Did they deserve it? Arguably not, but does it really matter? Not at all. You'll take 3 points anywhere they come and especially on the road. Myself and Aaron we'll look back on the game plus many other talking points surrounding the club, and the trivia is finally back. If you're watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and hit subscribe. And if you're watching live on Facebook, please hit that share button. If you're joining us through our audio-only channels, thank you as always. Please do consider leaving us a rating and review. This is the Monday Show on the Everything is Black and White podcast. Let's get on with it. Aaron, you're back. You needed last week off to recover from the Great North Run. How are we keeping?
Well, I've got to disagree with you slightly there, and I've got to pull you up on something. Actually, I've got a little bit of a gripe with you. I did need last Monday off, but more so because it was my partner's birthday, and also to recover from the Great North Run. But speaking of the Great North Run, tuned into last week's podcast, thinking I was going to get a really positive message for myself. We both completed the Great North Run. We've raised loads of money for charity, and instead, I just get criticised and abused for finishing 20 seconds ahead of you despite all my training. Where was the positivity about my run?
I'm not bitter about it at all. I think the point being is that you really put some effort into that training. I barely did anything at all, and all you could muster up was a 20-second time.
Well, I just thought, since we're such good pals and we had such a good day together Sunday, I just thought there'd be none of that. And I think if the shoe was on the other foot, I would have been very gracious about your time, which I was. But anyway, gripes over, and now we can talk about a fantastic Newcastle United win.
Well, fantastic.
Well, a Newcastle United win.
Okay, yes, the result is what we wanted. The performance, not so much. Newcastle United 2, Wolves 1. It is fair to say it was another underwhelming performance, and we keep saying that every single week. Glimpses of brilliance yet again, but somehow they got the victory. Initial thoughts on the game?
Pretty much a carbon copy of almost all the Newcastle United games we've seen this season. Good in spells, starting well, suddenly having this really big drop off, allowing teams to get back into the game, and then somehow finding a way to win, somehow finding a way to not get beat. I think one thing I will say is, yes, the performances have been disappointing across pretty much all the games, but Newcastle United are proving very, very difficult to beat. Everybody keeps saying it, I don't need to remind everybody. Everyone keeps saying, what will it be like when they start putting some good performances together? Look, I'm just happy that they're playing pretty average football and they're still winning and they're going unbeaten.
I think the optimist says, imagine how good they'll be when it all clicks into place, because they are far from the best and yet they are unbeaten in this Premier League season, up to third. And yeah, if you are looking for the positives, which there are plenty, and I asked you guys to send me some positives over X, and we got quite a few sent in. It is just imagine how good they will be when anyhow finally works out the remedy to the poor performances. The opening 25 minutes, they looked decent. I think it was a case of getting used to having the majority of the ball. I don't think they ever totally looked settled with it. And even though the first quarter of the game was grand, I always felt like the midfield was a little bit static. A lot of passes going backwards, sideways, which you have to do when you do have 70% possession. But it just felt like the midfield three didn't really know how to get into the game. But you saw in that opening 25 minutes enough to leave you happy?
Yeah, if I'm completely honest, I've got to disagree a little bit with that that comment there. I actually think the first 20 minutes, and I don't think people will agree with me, but I actually thought it was one of the best periods we've seen of Newcastle this season. Now, that obviously isn't saying a lot, but I actually thought the first 20 minutes when, Murphy had that chance, Isak had a half chance, Gordon hit the post, it started really well. Wolves were not in that game at all for 20 minutes. And then all of a sudden, you just saw the home side grow into it more, and Newcastle just all of a sudden went from, I thought, really, really solid to just looking like, they were really under the cosh. Conceded a goal, which is shouldn't have conceded. Very poor from a couple of players, obviously against the run of play. And yeah, it's becoming a pattern now, isn't it? Newcastle starting games well or playing well for 15, 20-minute spells. They did it at Forest. They did it at Bournemouth. They did it against Tottenham. But there's no real consistency throughout a full half or a full 60 minutes or a full game. of actually playing really good football. And I think after the first 20 minutes, they started losing the ball far too easily. They weren't tracking runners. They weren't, on the front foot anymore. And obviously they went in, at the break 1 goal behind deservedly, I think.
I was always nervous that was what was going to happen. You had the chances for Jacob Murphy and Anthony Gordon. I mean, that Gordon effort was absolutely fantastic. What a goal that would have been. Newcastle had 63% possession in the first half, made 309 passes to Wolves, 172. But they were caught up with that kind of absorb and then hit plan that Wolves executed brilliantly. And we've seen Newcastle United do that as well. They did it against Wolves last March, funnily enough. Great goal from Wolves, a really beauty of a counter-attacking goal, but it came from Newcastle United's own mistakes and Sean Longstaff giving the ball away on the edge of the box. And you had the likes of Bruno and Dan Burn not managing to stop the attack further up the field. But Jamie Carragher went on in the immediate analysis after that goal to say, look, this has been Newcastle United. It's been coming because of being so careless on the ball, giving it away. And I do think, more than anything in the 4 games, Aaron, the thing that has frustrated me the most has been the carelessness on the ball from Newcastle. They've been giving it away far too many times. Joe Linton, Sean Longstaff, Anthony Gordon, all guilty of it in the opening 4 games. And there's not really much Eddie Howe can do about that because he can get the fitness up. He can work on the game plan throughout the week. But at the end of the day, he can't compensate for his players giving the ball away as many times as they have done. And they were punished on Sunday. But I just fear what happens when you go up against a really good side when you are giving the ball away as much as Newcastle have been recently.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think certainly in terms of keeping the ball yesterday for large spells, Newcastle were really, really underwhelming. Obviously, it was a needless goal to give away. Longstaff loses it on the edge of the box far too easy, and then Newcastle are instantly on the back foot. Where's Lewis Hall? Where's Dan Burn going? Bruno's tracking was absolutely shocking. He lets his man go, half-hearted effort to get back. But as you say, yeah, we've banged on about Eddie Howe getting the players up to speed. We're on and about getting them, making the team press again. Where's this front foot tenacity that we've seen? We haven't seen that. Those are all things he can impact. He can't, as you say, impact the players giving the ball away. And I suspect we will talk about it further in the show, but I think it raises loads of questions about, is that midfield 3 that he started with this season the right midfield 3? A lot of people will say no, Sandro Tonali needs to be in there. A lot of people will say, maybe not you because you wanted to sell him in the summer, a lot of people will say Joe Willock, if he can stay fit, is a real contender to be in there. There's questions about the midfield. There's questions about the front 3, which I think will only grow after yesterday and Harvey Barnes coming on. There's some positives to take. As you've mentioned, a lot of people sending them in. I've got a list of my own written down. But there's also negatives that Newcastle need to iron out sooner rather than later.
Well, I'll address the Joe Willock point now because I had a feeling it might come up. He was one of the subs that came on at half time, and initially, it didn't do what I think anyhow hoped it was going to do. As time went on, they started to grow into the game. But Joe Willock was a breath of fresh air. I know Harvey Barnes scored the winner, but Joe Willock really did give Newcastle a bit of energy.
Yeah.
And yes, I did say I'd cash in on him in the summer, but that's simply down to the fact I don't think you can rely on his injury record. And we'll get into it later in the show. We've seen Newcastle United take a gamble on a similar player who has an injury record where you can never guarantee he's going to do 36, 38 games a season, and that's Callum Wilson. We'll talk about the striker issue later on the show. But yeah, Joe Willock I thought was a really clever substitution. And you are right. We're talking about the Sandro Tonali dilemma, but actually, if Joe Willock can find that form, can add a few goals to his game, he's a totally different player to what they've got in that middle of the park. We're talking about Tonali and Joe Willock pushing the midfield 3 of Bruno Longstaff and Joe Linton. I mean, Bruno is Bruno. He's brilliant. But another few performances like yesterday, is he in danger of maybe even him losing his spot?
Well, I was just about to say the exact same thing, but about Joe Linton. And I know, look, we spent months on this podcast talking about, actually, if I'd rather lose one of them, I'd rather lose Bruno and all this stuff. And I'm not trying to be, fair-weathered and fickle, but Joe Linton this season, apart from, maybe one game on the opening day, has been pretty poor. And Eddie Howe made a point yesterday of saying that midfield did not have the energy I wanted at half-time. So 2 of the years are coming off. And 2 more than capable replacements come in. And for Sandro Tonali and Joe Willock, there is a place there in that starting 11 if they want it. If Joe Willock can stay fit, a lot of people will say you've got to start him because he offers what no other midfielder does, and that is fantastic running with the ball, presence in front of goal, really good ability in the final third. And for Sean Longstaff, who, many see as the one who instantly drops out, even though he's been Eddie Howe's, reliable man, under the radar man, unsung hero, Sandro Tonali now, doesn't look like he needs a period of grace where he's going to get back. He looks fit and ready. He's played 180 minutes for Italy in the week. I wonder whether maybe that's the reason that Eddie Howe didn't start him on Sunday, because he said, look, I've been trying to phase him back in. He's gone away with Italy. He's played more than we probably wanted him to. I don't want to rush him back. But he came off the bench yesterday. He was fantastic. He offers energy. He can play as a 6. He can play as an 8. There's big questions to be asked about that midfield. And I think, looking at it now, it's not just Sean Longstaff who's at risk of losing his place. I really think Joe Linton needs to up his game, or he could lose it.
I agree. He hasn't had the best of starts to the season against Southampton. He was colossal. He gets the assist, or the assist for Isaac's winner against Tottenham. But that aside, he has had a poor start to the campaign. Needless yellow card yesterday against Wolves. Just a frustration. Just sees red.
Yeah.
Totally stupid. He got one of them against Tottenham as well, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, but I think that's the beauty of it. We, in our heads, the initial thought is that Eddie Howe's got his favourites, and it's a cast iron midfield 3. Bruno's definitely going to be in there. Joe Linton's going to be in there, and then it's probably Tonali when fit. But actually, I think Eddie Howe, I don't think he has as many favourites as people criticise him for doing so. And I think he will pick players based on form when it's called upon to do so. And what a positive dilemma to have, because if everyone's fit, I have actually changed my mind, because I would have initially said Bruno or Joe Linton, but also you've got to pick on form. Who knows who starts against Fulham? But let's just say everyone's fit, everyone's playing at the same level of form. Who is that midfield 3? Does it also depend a bit on, I guess, the opposition as well?
Yeah, it definitely does. And I think it's the same with the back 4. I mean, if I'm just going off topic, I was surprised Lewis Hall started yesterday. I thought it would be Lloyd Kelly, because Newcastle United were playing away from home and they might have needed a bit more stability. It does definitely depend on who they're playing. If they're all, I really want to see Joe Linton, Bruno and Tonali work, but I'm still just not sure it does, because I think, are they all a little bit too similar? Really energetic, really good carriers of the ball. Do they need someone like Willock who can offer a little bit more in front of goal? Longstaff offers a little bit more in front of goal. But I think the general consensus of everyone is, if you can get Tonali, Bruno and Joe Linton to work when they're all on form, that is the trio to have. But I don't think it's going to be as simple as that this season. And like I say, Tonali's obviously signed last summer, 2023, but we haven't really seen those 3 play together, bar a couple of games. It's still, the jury's still out as to whether they can play together. Are they too one-dimensional? I don't know.
I think it's the person who gets goals in that midfield 3 has got the best chance of starting, because that's what the midfield 3 lacks at the moment. None of the names we've mentioned there get enough goals for me at all. Joe Willock obviously had that pale patch when he was on loan, but he hasn't replicated it because it'd be so difficult to do. But he hasn't scored enough goals. Bruno, obviously Tonali was out. Joe Linton, we need to see more goals. And whoever can find the net and continue to find it will be within the best chance of starting. And then it's, whoever offers maybe that defensive protection and then that box-to-box element as well. But it's a fantastic dilemma for Eddie Howe to have. And I'm so intrigued to see what he does going forward when everybody's fit. Lewis Miley coming back as well in the not-too-distant future is going to add another element into it. And as I said on the brief live I did this morning, walking in the office, imagine if they hadn't sold Elliot Anderson. I mean, they would have been spoilt for choice in there. Do let us know in the comments live on Facebook and YouTube what your midfield 3 would be when everyone is fit and ready to be picked. The goal came, Aaron, with 36 minutes on the clock. Lemina nearly added the second when he dragged his shot wide with his left. If it had been on his right, I think it probably would have been 2-0. And that was just a series of chaotic clearances. Joe Linton, Anthony Gordon gives the ball away. Comes up the right. There's a clearance from Dan Burn. Everyone just seems to stop. And Lemina thankfully drags his shot wide. So important for Newcastle that they did concede a second in that period.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, look, going behind at the break, 1 down wasn't ideal, but it was salvageable. And I must say, I think Eddie Howe got it wrong on Sunday with his team selection. I think from the start there was a couple of areas that I would have changed, but you've got to commend him for making changes so soon and not wait until the hour mark to do it. One, because Newcastle came out, and actually for the first 5 minutes of the second half it probably didn't feel that way, but I thought they were better. They were pressing higher up the pitch, and then instantly they fell back on the back foot again. But it also sends a message to those players, as we've touched on, that, he isn't going to mess about. They're playing for their places now. And he made that clear at full time when he came out and spoke. He said, I wasn't happy with the energy and we've got the squad to do it now. So, yeah, look, they went in behind at the break. But like I say, I think Howe deserves credit for making 2 at half time.
What were the changes that you would have made to the starting 11?
Look, I love Lewis Hall, and I think he's the option going forward in terms of into the future and going forward with the ball. But I actually think I would have started Lloyd Kelly at left back. I was surprised to see Jacob Murphy back in the team and Harvey Barnes not in the team. And I think I would have started Sandro. I think I would have had him in probably for Longstaff. So there was a couple of things that I probably would have changed at the start, but anyhow, saw it wasn't working and made those changes pretty swiftly.
We've got Jake saying Willock will be better against teams parking the bus. We've got Roger saying Sandro's quality is so easy to see, being of an extremely high level. We mentioned there then, they go into the break 1-0 down. Eddie Howe, as we've mentioned, made 3 subs at half time. Sandro's not only Joe Willock and Harvey Barnes coming on for Joe Linton, Alexander Isak and Sean Longstaff. Isak was a bit of a forced substitution, going off with an eye injury. Joe Linton was on a yellow, and Longstaff maybe was the one change I think people probably expected. Howe said on the changes, I just felt we needed different energy in the team. It is reflected in the quality of the players we have waiting to play. But as I said, it's fair to say that it didn't initially work, and Wolves actually had 2 chances to add to their tally. Larson hits the post and forces Pope into a decent save, and Newcastle United were living dangerously.
Yep, as I say, those changes at half time, I thought initially in the first 5 minutes when Gordon, chased down that Sam Johnston back pass, I thought, okay, this is better. The changes are having the desired effect. And then, pretty soon after, it was back to the Newcastle that we've seen, more often than not this season, where they just can't control games. They're on the back foot. Wolves were really trying to get the crowd behind them. And I'll be completely honest, I know Fabian Schär's goal came out of pretty much nothing, but when we were 1-0 down, I didn't think we were going to get back into it. I definitely didn't think we were going to win, but I was really, really sceptical as to whether they were going to be able to, record another 1-1 draw.
No, I didn't see them getting back into it because, again, I just felt the energy wasn't there. They weren't moving as fluid as they can do. And I watched that Everton-Aston Villa game, and even when Everton went 2-0 up, I felt Aston Villa were going to get back in. And that's partly because Everton are just absolutely rubbish.
That's just Everton, yeah.
And Villa were at home, but also the quality of the players. And we actually, funny enough, saw a similar substitution made at half-time where Onana goes off and on comes Ross Barkley, and Villa came into the game, obviously ended up winning 3-2 with a fantastic strike from Duran. But I felt watching that game, because my father-in-law was visiting and we had to watch it, that Villa would come back into it. Wolves, Newcastle, I didn't feel the Magpies would come, but they did do. And as the half went on, Newcastle tried to push a bit more and Schär grabbed the equaliser. Now, I don't know about you, Aaron, but one thing I will never, ever, ever understand is why the opposition back off Fabian Schär from the edge of the box anywhere up to 30 yards and say, come on then, Fabian, what are you going to do? Because PSG learned the hard way. Wolves have learned the hard way. If you give him time and space, he's going to pop one in a goal and it's more than likely end up in the back of the net. Okay, this one got a bit of a lucky deflection, but hey, you give him the chance, he's going to shoot on goal. And when your performance isn't at the level it can be, when you're having a tough time of it, you need that luck as well.
Yeah, you need something special and you need a little bit of luck, and they got both. Now, look, we love Emil Kraft on this show. He's been fantastic in recent weeks. He's been a more than adequate replacement for Fabian Schär, but I don't think Emil Kraft would be scoring a rake like that from 30 yards, and that is why Fabian Schär was straight back in the team. No, it was a fantastic goal. As you say, it needed a little bit of luck, which it got. And look, even then I thought, okay, well, Newcastle might be to get a draw here, and they flipped the game on its head. They just needed something. They found it pretty much out of nothing. I thought Schär, full game, even defensively, I thought he was fantastic.
When you have to have more of the ball as it did in the first half to what you're perhaps comfortable with, you need someone like Fabian Schär on the ball to kind of just make the most of it. He's calm on it. He doesn't panic. He doesn't rush. He's a very good passer of the ball. He can hit them long. He can pass it back sideways just to build up that kind of momentum. So it was great to see him back. And, I think I felt a lot more confident with him at the back with the ball than I would have done if it had been Emil Kraft as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I felt more comfortable with coming back in. I've seen a lot of people, again, just to go slightly off topic, I've seen a lot of people in the last 24 hours say Dan Burn needs to drop out the team for Lloyd Kelly. He had a couple of moments yesterday, Boom, where he was, a little bit uneasy. He was tested. Maybe his lack of pace found him out a couple of times. But I actually think on the whole, him and Schar also, well, he has been fantastic all season, and him and Schar together works well. And I wouldn't be in a rush to change that back, that partnership at the heart of the defence. You're looking at me as if you would maybe change that.
I don't think it was helped by the fact that I think Lewis Hall's defensive limitations, I think, shone through again on Sunday. And Dan Burns, obviously, the centre back who needs to be there to protect them, and he hasn't got that pace to do so. So when your left back's having a bad game, well, bad might be unfair on him. An underwhelming game, Dan Burn can't always step up and protect them, and maybe that's why it looked like Dan Burn had a particularly horrid time yesterday. I don't think it was his worst game, but I can understand why the questions are coming out. It was just when they were running down that left and they were getting the better of Hall and Burn at the same time. I mean, the goal came down from that side, their goal, and it was happening quite a few times. And Jamie Carragher was putting the boot on poor Dan Burn quite a number of times as well. For me, I was impressed when Lloyd Kelly came off the bench. I thought he was really good in the air, because it was a really hard time to come off the bench, because you had Lewis Hall, who could barely walk, and he was put up front, running about. He had cramp or he pulled something, and he might as well have been down 10 men. And Wolves were just putting the ball in. And Lloyd Kelly was winning headers. He was organising the back line. And he's done that, I think, twice before when he's come off the bench. I think he came off the bench against Tottenham. And Southampton. Yeah, and he was doing what was called upon. He was just getting the ball away with his head. He's very good in the air. And for me, I would consider starting Lloyd-side Schar against Fulham.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's harsh on Burn to drop them. I suspect a lot of people in the comments and listening to this later will agree with you. Again, is it maybe just the trendy thing to call for Longstaff and Burn to drop out? I don't know. On Kelly, though, I thought he would start yesterday. I was really surprised when I saw Lewis Hall got the nod. I know he had a really good international break with the under-21s, but I just thought that game was crying out for Lloyd Kelly from the start.
It's the whole left-back, centre-back dilemma, isn't it? Is he a left-back? Is he centre-back? For me, I think he's a better centre-back. I really do. And it's them substitute.
Again, it's good options to have. It's a positive dilemma. And sorry to just sort of move the conversation on, but I did see somebody in the comments talking about it. There's another debate to be had, I think, at right back as well.
You do?
I do, because I think a little bit like what we've just spoken about Joelinton, I don't think Tino is at the level we've been used to him. And I actually think Kieran Trippier against Bournemouth and yesterday came on, brought an air of calm to the team, brought a little bit of leadership, was very good on the ball, very comfortable. I think Kieran Trippier performed really well coming off the bench yesterday. And I think there's a conversation to be had about not just who starts at left back, but who starts at right back as well.
I don't think that is as big a conversation as the other positions that we need to be talking about. I don't think Livramento did anything wrong. I mean, look at that. He's won 10 out of 14 duels. He won 8 out of 12 ground duels. I mean, that is a fantastic stat to have there. Okay.
Lost possession 4 times.
Okay, right. Well, do you want to go and find Kieran Trippier? Lost possession 5 times. So stick that in your gob. Look, Kieran Trippier, what he brings to the side is that experience and is that leadership. And when you are down on your luck, that's exactly what you need. That's what I think is noticeable in terms of the performance as a defender, or maybe even going forward. I don't think they were too far apart, to be quite honest. And I don't think Livramento will start. I don't think Kieran Trippier will start against Fulham.
I think my point wasn't that I think Kieran Trippier should come in and replace Tino Livramento, but I think my point is, just like we've got in the midfield, where there's real pressure on those who are in the team to perform, I think Kieran Trippier and what he's shown off the bench in recent games is going to put some pressure on Tino Livramento this season. Well, of course, that's what you want. That's why it was so crucial. They needed to keep him in the summer. They did. Everyone knows how happy I should be about that. But I do think Trippier has came off the bench in recent games and really, really helped Newcastle turn the tide. Did it at Bournemouth, did it yesterday.
Sam says Trippier is the best player at this moment in time. Tino will be world class, but he's not quite there yet. And Roger says Trips kind of changed the game. We've also got a comment here regarding Hall and Burn from Ian, who says Hall and Burn are a disaster waiting to happen on that side. It's really interesting because with all this debate about certain positions, so you've got potentially 2 changes to make in the midfield. You've got one on the wing, one at centre back, one at left back. You're chicken and right back. We know Eddie Howe doesn't like changes. So we've got to think with that Eddie Howe cap on. What's he actually going to do for Fulham? Really? Maybe Sandro Tonali comes in and he might change left back. I think other than that, I think he sticks with the team he's got.
You think Barnes is benched?
It wouldn't go down well with everyone, but I could see Barnes starting on the bench again. I could. And it goes down to just the fact that Eddie Howe doesn't like to hit up the team sheet too often, does he?
Well, I mean, if I'm completely honest, I don't think it would go down very well. But I mean, would you really be surprised if Sean Longstaff started over Sandro Tonali on Saturday?
No, I wouldn't.
I don't think so. So I know I get your point. I don't think any of us are saying there should be 7 or 8 changes. But I think what we're saying is that really the only people that are assured of their place in this team at the moment is Nick Pope, Fabian Schar. You could argue Tino, but I don't think that's as certain as it was a couple of weeks ago. Alexander Isak, Anthony Gordon, and Bruno. 5 players out of the 11 that are rock solid, guaranteed.
Well, there we go. Let us know in the comments what you think. We've got Dave, and Lloyd Kelly was a 25, £30 million player if his contract wasn't up. I love him at centre half, not having a pop with Bird, but Kelly and Schar is a very good option. Alan says Trippier is our best defender and had the 3rd most assists last season in the league. And we've got Craig saying Barnes has to start, no question. It's ridiculous. Let's get on to Harvey Barnes then. Comes off the bench, steps up to make it 2-1, comes in from the left, skips past 2 players and curls one into the top corner. An absolutely delightful strike.
Yeah, he's beginning to make a little bit of a habit of those. Pick the ball up on the left, beat a couple of men inside, and then rifle it in at the top corner. Can't ask for more than that, can you?
Good old-fashioned winger. Doesn't do anything flashy.
Doesn't do anything
just
at all until
run at the defence. No, that's unfair. Just runs at the defenders with his pace, and then he's not afraid to have a shot, which is what we've been crying out for so long when it comes to Wigan. Miguel Almiron, bless him, yesterday's man. We always said he's too scared to have a pop a goal. Too scared. Well, Harvey Barnes certainly is not. Fantastic goal. And not to go over old ground, ladies and gents. And, I'm not going to tell those who doubted Harvey Barnes that I told you so, that he would be worth every single penny and more that Newcastle United paid for him. But I'm going to go for old ground. He's going to be key going forward, isn't he?
Yeah, I still think he's got a bit to go, but certainly he's this season especially is proven his worth, and I think in terms of consistency so far this season, I think he's been one of the best. I still think there's a long way to go though with him. I still think we're not seeing half the player he could be, but again, that's a positive thing for Eddie Howe to be dealing with. I think he can get much better. And I know I've just sort of said tongue-in-cheek about him only scoring goals, but I want to see more away from that. I think games pass him by sometimes. Yesterday wasn't one of those games, but I do think he needs to do more to sort of nail down that starting spot.
Harvey Barnes has been directly involved in 11 goals in his 25 appearances for Newcastle United in the Premier League. 7 goals, 4 assists, averaging a goal or assist every 87 minutes of league action for the Magpies. I mean, that is a tremendous record. I'm
pretty sure I saw a stat yesterday as well, just to rub salt in the wounds, that he's had more goal involvements than James Maddison since Maddison went to Spurs. Now, bearing in mind, he missed pretty much a full season. That is some pretty good statistics.
It certainly is. And the big question is, and we've already sort of discussed it, but we'll go into a little bit more depth, is whether he is an impact player or whether he's someone who starts from the first whistle. It's a really interesting one because he scores the winner yesterday and you think, well, surely there's no question, as a lot of people are saying in the comments, there's no question he has to start. But is the argument that he's actually been better coming off the bench and he can hit defences when they're getting tired, when they're getting a little bit slow, and he's just that kind of magic Newcastle United need when it isn't going their way?
I think there's definitely an argument for that. I think he's proved so far that he's very much an impact player. I'd love to know, just to break down those statistics that you've got there about, how many of those goal involvements were from the bench and how many have been when he's sort of started on rare occasions. Again, I think it goes back to who Newcastle United are playing. I mean, a couple of weeks ago when Jacob Murphy had that pre-season that he had, everyone was talking about how he had to start on the right, and Jacob Murphy hasn't played well this season. I don't think he hasn't started the season well after the summer he had. So I understand the clamour to have Barnes starting, but then it's that age-old debate of, are you taking Anthony Gordon away from his best position to fit Harvey Barnes in? I don't know. Harvey Barnes won't play on the right. Gordon's been sort of shoehorned there. I don't think it's as nailed on as people would like it to be about Barnes starting.
Craig says Barnes is better than a bench option. Murphy starting above him is criminal. Jake makes an excellent point that when Barnes was starting, people were slating him.
Yeah.
Roger says it could have been 3-0 up at half time had Barnes started. And it is. It's just a debate that's going to rage on and on and on. If you're watching on Facebook, you're watching on YouTube, please do let us know in the comments and send us an email as well at the eibwpodcast@reachplc.com about Harvey Barnes. What do you want to see happen in the next few weeks? Starting, or is he an impact player off the bench?
This is the thing with Barnes. Harvey Barnes really needs to make this issue something that nobody can contest. He needs to grab this opportunity with both hands and say, I'm going to perform so well that there's going to be no, should he start? He is starting. And at the minute, I don't think he's done that. But fantastic impact yesterday. He's had a real good track record of coming off the bench, impacting games when Newcastle really need him to. And yesterday was no different.
Really good show of character as well, isn't it? Because in his head, he'll be thinking that I should be starting here. You know, every good player will have that attitude. And instead of sulking about it, instead of kicking off, he's just gone, do you know what? When I'm given my opportunity, as he did last season against West Ham, people will remember, scored against Spurs this season. You know, he takes that chance and takes that opportunity to show Eddie Howe what he can do. But of course, he started against Tottenham, didn't he?
Yeah.
He gets the goal, but then what happened is what you've discussed and what you've made a point about is that he just kind of
The game's passing by. The game's passing by, yeah.
So how does he improve on that? Is that just how do you stop that from happening?
I think just to give him the benefit of the doubt, it was such a big injury last season, and it was such a derailing injury. He's come in, all this money, you know, he's brand new start, exciting team. He thought he'd be starting, and actually he's found himself on the sidelines. I think more time with Howe on the training pitch, more time in the team will certainly help him. You know, remember how long it took Gordon? I mean, Gordon had a good 6-month spell where he was in that team, but he was struggling. I think we just need to see more of him, but he needs to make sure he's grabbing those opportunities.
Is there also a discussion to be had about who plays behind him? Does that impact what he can do going forward and impacting the game more? If he's got Lewis Hall, who is the future, who's shown very good glimpses of what he can be and what we hope he will be, but let's be honest, defensively still lacking a little bit. If Harvey Barnes maybe hasn't got that defensive kind of element in his game to help protect the left back, and the midfield isn't as rigid as it should be. You know, we used to have Joe Linton kind of filling it left back as well, or protecting the left back. Does that impact Harvey Barnes? Because you think about Miguel Almiron's brilliant season in front of Kieran Trippier. You know, you've got Trippier in his ear, you know, leadership, conversation, telling them where to be, what to be. And obviously Trippier brilliantly defensively. I'm just thinking, does Lewis Hall's frailties, to want a better phrase, and experience, does that impact Harvey Barnes?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, you know, would Barnes fare better with Lloyd Kelly behind him? Someone who's experienced, someone who can maybe give him a little bit of guidance, because I mean, I know that, you know, they're very similar ages, but Lloyd Kelly's played a hell of a lot more football than Lewis Hall has. And as you say, Lloyd Kelly is so much better going backwards than Lewis Hall. So there's strengths and weaknesses to both of them. I just think, and it was something I was saying off air to one of our colleagues, I just think the thing with Barnes is, and I know I keep banging on about it, but if he's not scoring goals or assisting, which, look, if that's really great that he's, you know, he's a great finisher, nothing else, that's great. But I don't think he offers too much off the ball. He doesn't offer too much defensively, and games passing by. And I don't think you can really say any of those things about Anthony Gordon, which is why I keep saying I think there's still a way for him to go. But I think if anyone's going to get the best out of him, it's Eddie Howe. And as you say, he's coming off the bench, he's impacting games, he's scoring goals, he's finding his feet in this team. And hopefully in a couple of months down the line, we'll all be subscribing to your prediction that he's, you know, going to be worth 400 million, not 40 million next year.
It's a lot of people have pointed out he was very good at Leicester. His record was absolutely superb. So he's proven he can do it at Premier League level. And look, if he just scores goals and sets up goals for his teammates and does nothing else, and we'll take that week in, week out. Stephen says it was never a doubt with Barnes. He's got a similar stat to Saka. People forget he's a finisher.
Yeah.
You've got Craig saying Gordon's done brilliant on the left wing, and now it's harder due to England, but right wing should be his moving forward. Darren says, Miggy going to struggle to get his place back at this rate. I don't think that's in doubt.
Didn't
at
even
all,
get off the
Darren.
bench yesterday.
But a lot of love in the comments for Harvey Barnes. We also got KGT actually telling us his lineup here. He goes Trippier, Schar, Kelly, midfield of Livramento, Tonali, Bruno, Willock, an attack of Barnes, Isaac and Gordon. And there's a little
very rogue, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let us know your starting 11 because there is plenty of discussion about that. But yeah, Harvey Barnes, look, he's only going to get better. I think he probably will start the next 3 games on the bench and then come off and impact it. And that won't go down well with everyone, at least him. But I think he will in time get that starting point. It's just what you do with Anthony Gordon then, because that was the other thing that came out of yesterday. Half time, Isaac has to come off. And bless, if you're poor William Masula, you're thinking this is my chance, right? This is my chance. And instead he opts to put Harvey Barnes on for Alexander Isak and Gordon goes up top. Gordon up top just doesn't work. I know you've got your own opinions about it, but in my view, it just doesn't work. It doesn't have that natural instinct of a forward. He's so much better on the wing. And look, United won, but I do think it begs the question of why not Asula? How doesn't perhaps feel he's ready to start? Okay, that's fine, especially when Isak is fit and ready to go. Why would you start Asula over Isak? You just wouldn't. But surely this scenario was right for Asula to be introduced to the game.
Was it the right time to introduce him to the game?
I think so.
1-0 down away from home.
I think
the game when you're on the back foot.
Yeah,
I don't know.
There was a moment after Newcastle United grabbed the equaliser and they go down the right and it's at the byline and someone pulls it back. I can't remember who it was. And Gordon's in the middle. Now the defender gets there first and clears out for the corner. And Gordon, for me, he's tried to get there, but he hasn't got there. And in my head, I was thinking, is that where that natural instinct as an out-and-out striker gets you? Like, he's 3 or 4 yards behind the defender. Asula, okay, inexperienced, hasn't got that many goals, but he's a striker. He knows what he's doing. It's built in you. Gordon is a fantastic winger, left or right, much better on the left, in my opinion, but fantastic winger. It doesn't work when he's up top. And for me, yes, Newcastle United won, so it's a bit of a irrelevant point. But I do think there was a case to bring Asula on, and I'll be really intrigued to know why he didn't.
But and I don't want to put words in your mouth here, so correct me if I'm wrong. But is that you saying that Asula should have came on and Harvey Barnes shouldn't have?
Well, obviously the way it's worked out, I'm not going to say but I can if it was me making the substitutions and Isaac had to come off, then I would have brought Asula on. I would have brought Tonali on for Longstaff. If Joe Linton hadn't had that yellow card, I don't know if he would have come off maybe across the house. It was down to the energy. Okay, I still think Barnes would have come on at some point, and he still would have injected pace and energy in the side. But I did sit there and wonder and just think, well, actually, are you telling me what did Anthony Gordon do? What did Anthony Gordon do when he went up there? Nothing. Didn't do anything.
Yeah, but I
closed Sam Johnson down. Okay.
But I don't think William Asula, and look, we've only seen him in the Cellar Cup, and I think that is quite telling. We've hardly seen him warm up for Newcastle United, and you're telling me 1-0 down at Molineux, you're on the back foot, he's the man to come on? I don't think so. You've brought Harvey Barnes on, really experienced. Yes, you've inconvenienced Anthony Gordon, but I think Howe trusts him through the middle. And yes, he isn't Alexander Isak, and he's not a natural striker, but if you're going to allow Harvey Barnes to come on the pitch and impact the game, it's a thingy. On Asula, it's clear Eddie Howe doesn't think he's ready. Eddie Howe, when we were in the first press conference with him and he was speaking about signing Asula, he made it clear on a number of occasions, there's a lot of work to do with him. We've signed him for the future. He is not a player that is going to come into this team right now. And we're 5 or 6 games into the season now, including a cup game, and we haven't seen him at all. That tells you Eddie Howe does not think he's ready. So I think it's a little bit of a muted argument because Howe doesn't think he's ready. So if he doesn't think he's ready, he's not going to throw him into a game like that.
There's a bigger discussion to be had, isn't there? Because I think what it highlights more than anything is a huge transfer failure that Newcastle United have got a £15 million striker.
Yeah.
They've got their main man coming off through injury.
Yeah.
And Eddie Howe was forced to play a left winger up top who does not affect the game in the way he should do.
Exactly that. But also it goes to show, Callum Wilson, Eddie Howe came out on Friday and said we thought he would be back in training around now. And he said he hasn't had a setback, but it's going to take longer than we envisaged. it's just such a crying shame that he cannot stay fit, because he's harming Newcastle by being out
Oh,
again.
it's costing Newcastle. Thankfully, it didn't cost them too much yesterday because they
Yeah.
got the 3 points. And
But this is the thing. I mean, again, another question. Eddie Howe doesn't know how serious Alexander Isak's injury is. If he can't play at Fulham for whatever reason, what does he do? Does he start Asula? Does he start going through the middle?
He'll start Gordon
start
through the
going
middle,
through the
but
middle.
you can't tell me yesterday that Gordon's body language looked fantastic when he went up front. There was times when he's drifting out to the left. It just doesn't work, and I just worry that you're going to make him a little bit unhappy. Look, he'll be happy to start, but in his head, he's going, I'm a winger. I'm a winger. Like, it doesn't work. And what we need to know, actually, we need to understand the position of Callum Wilson. And then, look, Eddie Howe is going to make us say, I want to keep him. But that in itself, we spoke about in the summer, it's such a huge gamble. And every time Eddie Howe is asked about him, and it's another week, it's another game, like, it looks like such a terrible decision. Now, it's easier saying, oh, Newcastle United should have cashed in. Like, no one's coming in for him. Newcastle want market value, but no one's paying that because he's crocked. Like, but it's costing Newcastle United. And if Isak doesn't start on Saturday against Fulham because of this injury, and it's Anthony Gordon up top, like, it just reaffirms the mistake they've made in the transfer window when it comes to a striker. Because if you're going to spend £50 million on a player like Asula and not use him in a scenario, which is, I get what you're saying, experience and attitude is at the right time. But the bottom line is, you need a striker up front. You need someone who's going to score your goals. If not, then when?
Yeah, I'm disappointed we haven't seen Asula at all this season, because, I mean, it's probably quite easy for people to forget, but he was really impressive in that Cellar Cup game. He had shades of Isak. He scored a really good goal that was disallowed. He looked, like, I'm not saying he was Premier League ready, but he certainly didn't look out of place. He looked like a player who was already getting relatively up to speed with his teammates. And, you know, people also might have forgot that it was Harvey Barnes' assist for his disallowed goal. They looked like they had a really good chemistry. So I'm surprised we haven't seen him at all. We haven't seen him come off the bench. Yes, Newcastle have been in a lot of tight games, and, you know, is Eddie Howe waiting for, Newcastle will be 2 or 3-0 up to bring him into a game where, it doesn't really matter. We don't know. We aren't privy to that information. Eddie Howe very may well get asked about it on Friday. But again, just to go back on Anthony Gordon, in the first half yesterday, he was Newcastle's best player down the left. He had tomato on toast. The break with England looks like it's done him a world of good. So then again, are you saying, right, well, we're going to move from the left where he's getting up to speed. We're going to put him out on the right to fit Barnes in. We'll talk about a lot of really positive dilemmas for Eddie Howe to have. This one is a really tricky one, because Anthony Gordon has been the most effective player in that position in the last 12 months. And you risk moving him out because of Harvey Barnes. Again,
but that's the point, isn't it? You see how good he was in the first half on the left. He was their best player, as you say. And then you're having that conversation when you go, like, arm on the shoulder, Anthony, you're going to have to go up front. Isak's got a bad eye. He's coming off. Like, in his head, that's another test of character, that, because if you continue to do that, who can blame him if he turns around and goes, I'm a winger first and foremost. Look how good I am. And then, yes, the dilemma with Barnes and Gordon, which side of the play, again, Gordon's not as good on the right, but, he's better on the right than he is up top. So it's an interesting one. Most certainly, we've got Sean saying, yeah, Gordon was great up top for the then and the 21 side that won the Euros. I don't think he hates playing there. He
has came out, and I know it sounds like I'm banging the drum for it again. He has came out and said he enjoys playing through the middle. But again, I will just caveat that by saying he is got to be on the left.
We've got Gary saying, how wants Asula to come on when ready, not just come on for the sake of it. He's young and very experienced. We don't want to damage his confidence. And I totally accept that point. But he wouldn't have been coming on just for the sake of it. He would have been coming on because they needed a striker for a striker.
It wasn't the game to bring him on, I don't think.
And it paid off. It paid off. And so it is a bit of a moot conversation. But my point goes back to, what did Gordon affect when he was moved up top? It was like he wasn't there.
But you could also argue that Gordon has had more experience playing through the middle, undoubtedly in this Newcastle team, than William Asula has.
Of course. So,
but is Eddie Howe looking at that and thinking, well, if I need someone to play through the middle in this team away at Wolves 1-0 down, I'm going to stick it down Anthony Gordon. Look, I know we're never going to agree on Gordon through the middle. You don't think it works. I think there's potential there. We need to see Asula, because we need to see how ready it is, and Eddie Howe clearly thinks that he's not.
Yeah. Okay. We've got people who sent in their positives, because I did ask for people to send in their positives, and one of them that came in more than anything was Nick Pope.
Yeah.
Because he made some fantastic saves in that game and probably was Harvey Barnes' side the reason Newcastle United actually won it. There was a great save from Kuna on the half volley. We had 2 from Larson, as I've mentioned, or 3 from Larson actually. One looked like it hit the post, but actually he saved it. We in the summer we talked about goalkeeping options, and Newcastle United signed John Ruddy. They signed Lacademos as well. They were after James Trafford. Lacademos.
I'm just saying, where is he?
Oh, who? Yeah. Bless him. Interesting article in one of our rival outlets about what the future holds for him. Looks like a very interesting deal, shall we say. But obviously they were in for a new goalkeeper, and then they decided, actually, Nick Pope's fit, he's recovered. We're not going to gamble, let's say, 40 million on Moshashvili, who's gone to Liverpool. We're going to stick with Nick Pope. We've got enough backup with Dubravka and the rest of them. Is that £40 million gamble paid off?
Yeah, look, I think Nick Pope has been fantastic. He's came back from that injury with a little bit of doubt over whether he's still going to be at the top of his game. Fantastic again yesterday. He's having a really good start of the season, making very difficult saves, look pretty routine like that Cunha one. And I actually feel like Harvey Barnes, Fabian Schar, Anthony Gordon yesterday got the limelight because, undoubtedly they turned the game on its head. But actually, I think Nick Pope's performance went under the radar. Still very shaky with his feet. I don't think we'll ever get over that. But when it comes to shot stopping, there is few better than Nick Pope.
Well, he said that, didn't he? He said that last week, or the week before, Eddie Howe on Nick Pope. And yeah, some fantastic saves, just always switched on.
Yeah.
And yes, his distribution leaves a lot to be desired, but they're just so much better for him between the sticks. And you can see why there's that confidence that actually we don't need to spend the majority of the budget on a new goalkeeper for this season, probably next season, because elsewhere needs strengthening. Nick Pope fit, injury-free, absolutely fantastic. One of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League.
Yeah, I was just about to say there is very few goalkeepers better than him in the league. And we've talked about Newcastle United playing pretty poorly in the last 5 or 6 games, but they're not conceding mountains of goals, and games aren't slipping away from them because they're shipping goals. He's keeping them out. He's keeping Newcastle United in games. He saved them yesterday with that late Cunha save and that good save from Larson. He had a really, really good game.
Yeah, he certainly did. We've got Nicky saying Barnes is better than Gordon. If he stays fit, he will get the goals. The Bass Man says, I think Barnes is better suited to the super sub job rather than starter. He can be as devastating as the opposition tires. Jay defends Gordon. He says he kept pressing up until the end and it forced him into numerous long balls, which led us to getting the ball back. Darren says Barnes won't want to stay as a super sub. He'll want to be playing. We've got loads of people talking about the midfield options. KJT says it's not trendy to drop Burn and Longstaff. It's sensible. And Sean says, I think Trafford will come in at some point and eventually take over from Pope, which I'm not sure everyone will agree with. Now, I'm going to dive into some more of the positives that I got sent from you guys over on X. And we've got Tyne Talk says, defense is still great, although we can't keep possession and seem way off it. Pope still hasn't had many saves to make. Obviously, he's done well when he has to. Seems to be plenty of competition for places too. Barnes and Murphy contributing already. Willock will do the same. Peter says the players just keep going. Under previous managers, these performances would have very likely ended in defeat. The mindset to never give up is phenomenal. Eddie Howe's minimum requirement, it seems. David says Tonali, Barnes and Willock all good enough to start rather than be on the bench, and somehow we are winning games. Loads of people commenting on Nick Pope. Hopper says Nick Pope being back in goal as a step change from the end of last season. Santi is given 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 positives here. Actual depth on the bench is massive. Hall looking like he could be the real deal. Tonali back and looking sensational. Knack for getting the results the dirty way. Willock back is huge, as we don't have a player comparable in terms of driving from midfield. John references Nick Pope. Eric says, while there's been inconsistency on the ball, there's been incredible heart and togetherness. Players aren't isolated when they make costly mistakes. They're supported. The celebrations are group celebrations. Ryan says, quite simply, Nick Pope. Jarrah Mag says, strength and depth, quality off the bench. Ginger Plum says, Tonali. And Chris says, Joe Willock. So everyone that's commented there we've got 3 or 4 people commenting on the same kind of things, which is fantastic.
Yeah, very wide range of things there. I'm trying to think if they've missed anything off there.
You said you had a list. Where's your list going?
I mean, the list that I've jotted down quickly before this episode is they're still unbeaten. Nick Pope is back in form. Kieran Trippier's come off the bench and not looking like a player who wanted to leave in the summer. They've got 5 midfielders vying for 3 spots. Fabian Schar still looks fantastic after they missed out on a centre-half. Gordon looks like he's getting better with each game. That break with England has done him good. Newcastle are proving very hard to beat, as I mentioned at the top of the show. And look, their best start to a season in what, just shy of 30 years?
Yeah, 29 years,
Yeah.
95, 96.
So, I mean, look, they're not playing well, but there's plenty of positives to take.
Yep, and lots of people commenting about the away shirt that was worn, comparing it to Harvey Barnes, to Dav Ginola, but we had a bit of a grumble about that. Lots of people are saying, Ginola scored a wonderful goal, similar goal to Barnes against Sheffield Wednesday.
It was nothing like it.
Nothing like it. I also, if I'm not mistaken, I think, how many goals has Harvey Barnes scored for Newcastle United? Because I think Harvey Barnes will not be far off beating Dav Ginola's tally at Newcastle United, and he's still got the best years ahead of him as well. Look, it's a lovely little shirt though, isn't it?
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it yesterday. It's the best shirt that Adidas have released out of the 3, in my humble opinion. And yeah, it looked good yesterday. Finally seeing it on for the first time.
And look, this podcast we've spoken about maybe some negatives, some down points, but overall, 10 points from 12, 3rd in the league. You're playing pretty abysmally, but you're unbeaten. You laugh? I mean, is that too harsh?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit harsh.
You think?
Yeah, I think they're playing. I think they're underperforming. I wouldn't say they're abysmal.
Well, I mean, there's been.
I mean, abysmal is like when they were at the Emirates and they got smashed 4-0 last season. Abysmal is like
below par.
Yeah, then. Below par, underwhelming, pretty bang average.
When are you? Because it's funny because I tweeted that my point out about them, it's unsustainable, and someone came back and said, "Oh well, we'll play good and lose then if that's what you want," which is exactly not what I want, is it? But when do you see it maybe clicking? I mean, are you? I'm of the mindset that actually when it does click, it's going to be quite scary.
Yeah, I mean, you would think so, wouldn't you? I know it doesn't always work like that, but I mean, when is it going to click? I mean, look, it's early days in the season. There's still going to be teething problems. We've only had 5 games. I don't want to seem as if it's all doom and gloom. If they're still playing like this in January, then I'll be a bit worried. You've got to remember that while teams are playing Champions League football this week and European football and Conference League, Newcastle are going to be at home on the training pitch, well rested. Hopefully from now they'll kick on. Surely they've got to kick on from now.
Eddie Howe said, winning is everything. I've never shied away from that. The best way of that is to be unified. The unity between the supporters, the players and the coaching staff is key. I'll do everything in my power to keep that unity. It's a great performance. It's a great platform for us. Confidence is always the key ingredient in any sporting team. Hopefully by winning in the manner we are confident. Hopefully by winning in the manner we are confident our confidence will continue to grow. That's not doubting the quality of players we have.
Yeah, and I think obviously we should probably talk about the context that those quotes were made, and that was obviously in a response to the crisis that's unfolding, the civil war that I got slagged on YouTube for calling it the other day. Darren Eales, Paul Mitchell, James Bunce, all in the stand yesterday. Newcastle United 1-0 down, losing on the road, and the Sky Sports cameras, conveniently pan up to the director's box, and Carragher's talking about, everything that's unfolding off the pitch. Hopefully, I mean, I'm sick of talking about it now. I'm sure you're sick of talking about it. I think the fans and the viewers are sick of talking about it. I thought Eddie Howe's answer was very good. Draw a line under it. But he's got to now back it up with results, because I think as soon as I have a little run, if it comes, of poor results, that will be straight back into the forefront until at least January.
I think what needs to happen, and of course, we don't know what happens day in, day out at St James's Park. We're not lucky enough to be a fly on the wall. But I think Darren Eales, if he hasn't done already, I think he just needs to be mediator. I think he needs to get them around the table and say, look, you've given that interview, you've given these comments. This is how it's played out in the public. This is the perception that's been given out. We know it's not like that, but regardless, any lasting tension, let's deal with it right here, right now. Let's have clear the air talks. Let's get it done, and let's get it dusted. So we don't have any of this running into the season, into the transfer window in January. Get around the table. Darren Eales, we've both met him. He's very personable. He's very good when he talks, and I'm sure he's like that with his actual staff. He can sort this, because the thing is, when you look at Newcastle United staff, Eddie Howe, fantastic manager, one of the best managers in the Premier League. You've got Bunce, one of the best people in his position. Peter Silverstone, Darren Eales, Paul Mitchell. You've got individuals there at the very top level of their positions. If it works and if everyone can get on the same page and pull in the same direction, Newcastle United off the pitch should be an unstoppable force. But there's still something negatively just rumbling away in the background. I know people slated your video slightly and slated various reports from other journalists. But when Eddie Howe comes out and says, I haven't spoken to Paul Mitchell since that interview, I'm sorry, for my opinion, that is slightly alarming. Why anyone says, even if you're not talking to him about that interview, I still think they should be having an open dialogue about whatever it is. But to go that long, a little bit of alarm bells went off my head. But of course, like I say, we don't know the ins and outs of it. But I think if there is any lasting tension, get around the table and just sort it out once and for all.
I think, and I made this point in the video on over the weekend to try and play devil's advocate a little bit. I wasn't really alarmed by Eddie Howe saying he hasn't spoken to Paul Mitchell, purely because I remember 10 days prior, Paul Mitchell saying, I've spoken to Eddie Howe every day over the transfer window, but now I want to give him time to reset. He's away on international break, blah, blah. I'm not too fussed about, I'm not going to, really worry about them not speaking for 9 days over the international break. What I was worried about and why we felt it was necessary to do that video, last week on that podcast was Paul Mitchell comes out and gives a very, very, wide-ranging, huge interview to journalists where a lot of points were discussed. Some of it not very pleasant about Newcastle, some of it, very negative about what's happened before him. And then I think to send Eddie Howe out in front of the media to us on Friday, where Eddie Howe has essentially, it's the first time we've spoken to him, and he's coming out and completely contradicting what Paul Mitchell said. He's hitting back at the, stuff not being fit for purpose. All that is going to do is continue this thing off the. So as you say, they just need to sit down behind the scenes and say, let's put it to bed. Let's draw a line under it.
But that's why I think it was so important that they did have a conversation, because at the very least you want one of them to pick up the phone, and whether it's Eddie Howe saying, well, what do you mean it's not fit for purpose? Or whether it's Paul Mitchell saying, look, I've just said this to the media. It's been written this way. It's not how I meant it. Let me explain what I meant. That communication is absolutely key. And we've got people here saying there's no crisis. It's just all opinions and perspectives. I don't think there's a fully blown out crisis, but I do think there are disagreements, and that needs to be sorted. And I just think it could have been handled slightly better. And like I said, anything that's lasting now, the sooner it's put to bed ahead of the January transfer window is absolutely key.
I just think Eddie Howe came out over the summer, said all that stuff in Germany. Paul Mitchell then comes out a couple of days after the transfer window, fully intending to shut this all down. He was intending to shut it all down about his relationship with Howe. He was intending to shut it all down about the transfer window. That should have been the end of it, and it hasn't, and it's still rumbling on. So I think they've tried to shut it down. I don't think it's worked. But now, hopefully, look, all Newcastle United need to do is stay unbeaten, keep winning games, keep picking up points, improve their performances, and people will stop talking about it. And can I just say, generally me and you and everybody else, we are sick of talking about it. Please do not think that this is a media thing that we take pleasure of. I don't want Newcastle United to be warring between a sporting director and a manager. I want them to be pulling in the same direction. It gives me no pleasure to do YouTube videos or podcast episodes talking about how things aren't right behind the scenes. But you cannot just close your eyes to it and close your ears to it and say, oh, everything's fine. It clearly hasn't been.
It's not.
But that's not us saying that it's not going to get better. And I think Eddie Howe is safe at Newcastle. I don't think there's any danger of him going, but they need to keep the results going.
Yeah. And then he just sorts it out. It's like having all the best ingredients, putting it in a mixing bowl and putting the cake in the oven. It comes out burnt. That's not what you want. You want some nice Victoria sponge.
And as we've said in previous episodes and very recently, this is a very new relationship. A huge summer of change. Staveley and Gadusi and Ashworth going. and Paul Mitchell coming in with his own ideas, Eddie Howe having his own ideas. It's going to take time, but I think it'll work.
Yeah, we've got Sam saying we are not Manchester City, is his point about Newcastle United not performing very well. They're playing quite well, he says, in his opinion. When Newcastle United, not City, we can't just steamroll every team, which is not what I'm saying they should be doing. What I'm saying is I think the performances can be a lot better. I think Eddie Howe said that as well in certain ways, and I think the majority agree that the performances have been a little bit underwhelming. But the point is, Newcastle United are third, unbeaten in the Premier League, and that is a brilliant start to the season. Darren says, let's see what happens in January with Mitchell, what actions are taken. We know Mitchell may have fallen out with Nixon and Howe, etc. Let's move on. Gary says, let's not get too set in January yet. It's notoriously difficult to get players you want in January. Newcastle United tax will increase. Smacks of desperation in January sometimes, which is even more important that everyone's pulling in the same direction. So then, if January doesn't come off the way we hope it does, there's nobody getting thrown under the bus. Mitchell, Howe, just the same as Musgrove, Stokes, running, bickering. We got it all right. You're not going to go briefing against me, are you?
I don't think so. We'll see.
Right, are we ready for the trivia?
It's back, is it?
It's back.
You've sprung a surprise on us.
Yeah. Very warm in this room, hasn't it?
Yeah, I feel like the heat came on.
God, I am very.
I'm just sweating for the trivia. That's all.
Right, today with 20 questions. Are you ready?
Yeah,
you played 20 questions before?
Yeah, I played 20
you
questions.
You guys watching, listening, our 20 questions work. Aaron has got 20 questions to guess the person in question. I can only answer yes or no. Would you like a little clue to the person? I suppose I've got to give you a little clue because otherwise it could be anybody.
Yes, please.
20 years ago today. How old were you 20 years ago today?
I was 8 years old.
Oh, so you might remember
Just
this.
Celebrate my 8th birthday.
Made their full home debut for Newcastle United. Wasn't quite Mick Quinn. Wasn't quite Super Max scoring all those goals on his home debut, but he still managed to score 2 goals. So, where are you going to begin?
Right. So my first question is going to be... was looking back now, is this player fondly looked back on?
I can only answer yes or no to this. Yes.
Okay,
I would say yes.
That makes me think he's maybe.
It's probably right. I'll give you the one. He's probably somewhere in between.
Okay.
Let's just check this pen works. Right. That's the first question.
Was this player an attacking player?
He was.
He
scored 2 goals on this very day in the UEFA Cup.
Was he a striker?
He was. Anybody coming into your mind? Any?
No, not yet. So debut in 2004.
First home debut.
First home debut for Newcastle in 2004.
He made his debut, but this is his first home debut.
Did this player play for other Premier League clubs?
No. He did not. He did not.
Okay. That's interesting because I had. Okay.
So you had someone in mind there.
Yeah, but it was very tentative and.
Go on, I'll not count it as a
no,
guess.
No. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going.
You're on.
I've had
4
questions.
Yeah. It was UEFA Cup first round, first leg.
Is this player British?
No.
Okay.
Against a team called Hapiel Ben Sakin, an Israeli team. At home, only 30,000 saw the game.
This isn't a question, but it is a question. Do you know how many appearances he made?
Not off the top of my head.
Do you know roughly?
I would
like if I give you a ballpark figure, like would you be able, like let's say I give you?
I would say it's under 100.
That's what I was going to ask. Has he made?
But I mean that's kind of a question, so I'm gonna have to.
No, yeah, okay. That's has he made under 100 appearances for Newcastle?
Yeah, I'd say well under 100 actually on hindsight. I'll just confirm that for you. Yeah, 37 appearances.
Did this player? Does he have a chant about him?
No,
he's not in a chant.
He's not in a chant.
So he didn't wrap it up.
No.
Okay.
I mean, you might be saying that, and that's totally got over my head, but to my knowledge, he does not have a chant. Just not wrap it up. Go on.
With a knick-knack paddywhack.
Oh, no, it's not Albert.
It's not Albert.
It's not. Don't worry, I'll not count that as a guess.
Does this player have hair?
Yes.
It's not Antoine Sibieski.
Roger says, does he wear glasses? I mean, he may do
feels
right.
like it's a game of guess
He may
who,
do
doesn't
right
it?
now, and I'm having to block the screen because a
Because
lot of people have got it on the comments. So I'm just blocking the screen from Aaron's view. But yes, we've got Sam Milner, friend of the podcast, co-host, getting it. Got Brodlicks getting it. Darren Lee getting it. Oh, and Darren admits he had to look it up, which is no good.
Right, so it's 04.
A lot of people are getting this in the comments.
Yeah. He started earlier.
Come on, you can think about different ways to get it. And there's, other clubs you played for, nationalities,
It was this player European?
Yes. He was a European player.
Was he?
The kind of face says, think about who was manager.
Yeah, that's the thing. So
Sam says, Aaron, this is painful.
2004. So
I'm going to have to... I agree with Sam. This is getting quite painful. I thought you'd be flying through this.
How many questions have I had? I've had one.
You've had 8. Roger says, now this is a good question. Has he got kids? He has got kids, Roger.
Why is that a good question, though? I'll use that as one of my questions. Why is that a good question? Will I know that he's got kids? Like, is it a well-known fact that he's got kids?
Oh, yes.
Oh, so maybe his kids are playing.
Yeah.
His kids are playing, are they?
Kids are playing. Scored this weekend. Oh, very, very nearly scored this weekend, actually.
Oh.
Good save. Very good save, actually, from the goalkeeper to stop this from going in. I have to move my arm now because it's starting to don't look at the screen.
I'm not going to look at the screen. So is his kid playing Premier League football?
Yes. That's your 10th question. So where? You've won, so you've got...
Why do I feel like the kid now is my best chance of getting it?
Well, because they've got the same surname.
Hang on. Yeah, no, I know, but who played in the Premier League this weekend that nearly scored?
Came in from the left, a little slip and a little left foot effort. Keeper got down low.
I do feel like I didn't really watch much football apart from Newcastle.
Right, keep going. Think about nationality.
So he's European. Is this player French?
No.
Is he Spanish?
No.
I'm just wasting guesses here.
I know, but you're going to get there. There's not that many European countries. I mean, there is quite a lot.
Is he Italian?
No. 13 questions.
No, I'm not going down the country route. Is this? I mean, this is a question, but I don't want it to be a question. Is it an obvious player?
Yeah.
Like, is he well known?
Yeah, he was one of the best marksmen in Europe.
Oh, well, I know it, but I sort of want to just make sure people know that I know it. Is he Dutch?
He's Dutch.
Oh,
yeah.
Is it a certain Patrick Kluivert?
Yeah, you got there with 15 plus 4, 5. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
Sorry, that was painful, guys.
You probably had by the point.
You know what it is? I only got it from the marksman question.
Do you know what? I think we might do 20 questions every week.
Yeah, maybe I should do it next week to get you back because.
And Sam says, hallelujah. Yes, that was quite painful, ladies and gents. But as we get into it, a little bit like Newcastle United this season, it will get better, I promise you. I hope you enjoyed the 20 questions. I hope you enjoyed the show. Aaron didn't enjoy it, but thanks for sticking with us. We always enjoy your company. Send any thoughts, any questions to the EIBW podcast at reachplc.com. And we will need your questions because Simon Bird is off cycling somewhere, so he's not on this week's show on Wednesday morning. So Aaron's going to step in and it's going to be a Q&A with Aaron. So if you have any questions relating to Newcastle United about past, present, future, whatever, drop them to that email address. Once again, the EIBW podcast at reachplc.com, and we will get to them. Thank you as always for joining. And for myself and Aaron, we'll see you guys on